Amorim is coming in now. I reckon Bruno could just get his position completely changed.
I think it will be changed for the better, and I would honestly take him ahead of Mbeumo in a draft right now.
That's crazy.
Really?
Crazy. Mbeumo is the guy.
I think everyone's talking about Cunha. He's overrated. He can't keep getting away with this. He's scoring goals from like 0.00001 XG.
You're talking about my captain. My captain from Gameweek 11.
You got lucky.
No disrespect.
You got lucky.
Haaland's just got to go now, right?
Yeah, I've run out of excuses for him.
He's just got to
Sell him.
It's too long.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. We're in a barren place with defenders, so hear me out for a second. Just hear me out. Reece James.
No. Quitting the podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Stick to FPL podcast. This week, it was Game Week 12 coming up. We're a little bit early.
Game Week 11.5.
Yeah, well, I suppose so. But this is a very special bonus episode for you guys, because we couldn't bear to be away from you for even 1 week. So we're going to be doing a Wildcard Special this week. So if you're on a Wildcard this week, this is going to be an incredibly useful hour of video / audio. And even if you're not on a wild card, I think you will get something out of this. Because a lot of people are looking to readjust their teams a little bit in the next run of fixtures. So I think this is going to be really, really useful. So this is how it's going to work.
Wait.
What?
Wait. Before we move on. Before that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like, follow, 5-star review, all the good stuff. Check us out on all the platforms. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Meta.
Yes. Meta? Oh, I don't think we're on Meta.
We are now.
Okay.
Check us out on Meta.
You can run the Meta account then, I don't think.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't think I want to do that.
But yeah, make sure you subscribe. We finally hit 4,000 followers, so thank you to those guys who got us there. And next up, 5,000.
Yes, let's go. 5,000 subscribers up next. Quick shout out for our sponsor for this season, which is Fantasy Football Hub. They're going to provide all of us with all of the stats, the graphics, and everything like that for every episode. So a massive shout out to them. If you want to check them out, you can get a free trial right now over on the link tree or in the description. You'll be able to find it. Get your free trial. Some great stuff in the members area. We're going to showcase some of that stuff today. But as I was saying, the way today's show is going to work is we're going to both display our wildcard drafts, and then we're going to have a bit of discussion. And at the end, we'll come back to our drafts and kind of think, is there any changes that we might want to make? So we're front loading the content. Let's not mess about. The people want to see, they want to hear about wildcard drafts. So let's get straight into it right away. And we're going to start off with my draft. So this is my current Game Week 12 wildcard. And by the way, I am actually on a wildcard right now.
That's an expensive draft.
Yeah. So this is my draft. We've got Sanchez in goal, Gabriel, Hall, and Canate in defense. In midfield, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Bruno Fernandes, Isaac, Cunha, and Joao Pedro up front. And a bench of Fabianski, Rodgers, Ait-Nouri, who's probably going to play most weeks ahead of Hull, and then Burgess, a nice cheap 3.9 million defender on the bench. It's a really strong wild card. It is a little expensive. Not everyone is going to be able to afford a bad boy like this, but there are some ways to cut some corners. For example, dropping Fabianski down to a 3.9 goalkeeper. Yes, there is one of them now. And you could maybe do Fernandes to Mbeumo. You could maybe drop Sanchez down to a cheaper goalkeeper. Maybe even Cunha down to one of the other plethora of great forwards. So there are definitely ways to make this a wild card cheaper, but that is what I've got right now. What are your initial thoughts, Sim, on my current wildcard draft?
I like it. I'll change all the things that make it my wildcard draft.
Okay, that's fair enough.
But I think it makes sense. I like the Chelsea goalkeeper. Canate is a very interesting pick, and I don't get it.
You don't get it?
Because the fixtures for Liverpool aren't brilliant. I can't remember far past the next three, but it just seems a bit of a weird pick for me. And then the Bruno Fernandes versus Mbeumo one is going to be a complex topic, but for me, I would still prefer Mbeumo over Bruno Fernandes. But I'm sure we'll flesh that out in a moment. And then finally, Joao Pedro. What? I don't get it.
You're really not getting this pick?
I don't get it. I don't get it one bit. He's on penalties. Wow. How many penalties have Brighton won all season? 0.
Well, there's plenty of time for more. Actually, they have had penalties this season, haven't they? Like a couple, maybe one.
Maybe one. Maybe one. But no, I don't know. Joao Pedro, look, I get it. The data, for some reason, just loves him. But I just prefer Welbeck. Like, he's been on better form. He plays further forward. Joao Pedro, we know, is going to end up playing second striker 10. Like, it's just not for me. It's just not for me. Until Welbeck gets injured, I think he's a better option.
Okay, well, let's do Joao Pedro versus Welbeck as a discussion right now. So Joao Pedro has penalties in his favour. He has the price in his favour. He's a little bit cheaper. It's like 0.5 cheaper.
Isn't it 0.4? Okay, 0.5.
Yeah, which is fairly significant. And then we have, I think, the fact that Joao Pedro, I would actually say is more nailed than Welbeck. And the reason for that is because he is Brighton's best player. Then we're looking at football players at that club. Joao Pedro is number one.
That is, whether or not that is true, I'm not going to debate. I'm going to debate what the manager thinks, right? The manager has consistently picked Welbeck when Joao Pedro's been available. Even De Zerbi consistently picked Welbeck when he was available.
Yeah, but Joao Pedro has only been available for, 3 games this season in the Premier League under Hertzler?
He's been benched once.
Well, I mean, he's been benched this game week just gone because he's coming back from an injury.
I think he's benched at the start of the season as well. And I'm going to verify that because I don't want to make claims that I don't actually think are true.
No. He was subbed.
Was he subbed?
He was subbed because he got injured.
Okay, let's take a quick gander. Joao Pedro. So he obviously was benched this game week.
Yeah, but that's understandable because of just coming back from an injury. By the way,
he played 19 minutes against Forest, but that was surrounded by 0 minutes before that. I think that was after the international break. So he missed the game after the international break and then didn't start the next one.
Yeah, there was an injury there.
And then got injured again.
So there was actually 2 injuries there.
81 minutes in game week 1, 90 minutes in game week 2, 90 minutes in game week 3. So he hasn't been getting benched sort of particularly often, but it has been precarious.
I don't think it has. I think it's just injury related.
I think last season as well was a clear indicator where De Zerbi preferred having Welbeck available and playing whenever possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't say Joao Pedro is more nailed than Welbeck at the moment. Welbeck has been playing every single game that he's available.
Yeah, and we have no evidence to say Joao Pedro is going to be more nailed.
That's my point, right?
But you would say, like, Cole Palmer at Chelsea, Chelsea's best player, plays every game. Saka at Arsenal's best player, plays every game. Surely the same applies to pretty much any football team?
Joao Pedro being Brighton's best player is not as obvious as Saka or Salah or Palmer.
I disagree.
Their respective clubs. I think Joao Pedro is one of the good players in the club.
I disagree.
Welbeck has been the better player this season. Granted, one's been available, one hasn't. But Welbeck has been the better player.
But I don't even know if that's true. When Joao Pedro has played this season, I honestly think he has been brilliant. Like, looked really, really good. Maybe not necessarily, like, some of the work that he's been doing has been a little bit deeper, like playing, like behind the striker. But I think in that role, from a non-FPL perspective, I think he's actually looked really good.
I hear you, but I don't think Welbeck has been like miles off him. I think Welbeck's arguably having one of his best seasons ever.
It probably is Welbeck's best season ever, let's be real.
So I think Welbeck's been phenomenal. I would say it's a stretch to say Joao Pedro is the outright best player. Personal opinion at the end of the day, depends what the manager thinks. I think it's kind of telling that the manager still prefers Welbeck in his natural position rather than Joao Pedro in his natural position.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, here's another point. During the first few games of the season, we did see Welbeck getting substituted off, and then Joao Pedro would move to the central striker position. And I don't know. I think now that Joao Pedro's back, there is a small concern about Welbeck. Maybe in the game weeks where, there's 2 game weeks within one calendar week. I don't think, particularly over the Christmas period as well, I don't think Welbeck is like a 90-minute man for every one of the next 10, 15 game weeks. He probably misses 2 games in there.
He probably isn't. We don't know if he'll miss stuff because I feel like he's been playing a lot.
For his age as well.
I think maybe he gets his minutes managed as opposed to benchings.
Yeah, okay.
Because I do think they really rate him playing up front at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christmas is a while away, so you still got sort of most of November, half of December before those kind of fixtures start to kick in. for me, I still think Welbeck is probably the better option.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is it's an interesting debate. I think people are going to feel different ways. I think the big thing for me is the price tag and what that 0.5 million perhaps allows you to do elsewhere. I think does make a bit of a difference to me, because I don't think there's too much in it between the two players generally before you consider a price tag. And then you add that into the mix. And it's my preference. I prefer Joao Pedro. I really, really like this.
Can you afford Welbeck in this draft?
I think I could, but I think many other people maybe wouldn't be able to. Like I said earlier, though, like Cunha can be downgraded there as well. I'm not that keen on Cunha compared to most people, I think.
Why not?
I don't like the fixtures. I really don't like the next 3 fixtures. Fulham away is genuinely a really tough fixture. Their off-the-ball work is really good, and I don't think Wolves are going to be able to counter-attack in the same way as they've been doing against other teams. I think they'll struggle there. Bournemouth is a team that has shown some promise this season as well. And then Everton, who are going back to, we had the Dawn Scheich era of Everton, where Everton were an attacking team seemingly for sudden and conceding goals. But that seems to be changing now, and Everton are kind of going back to their old ways.
Yeah. I mean,
and away from home as well.
The other striker that you picked plays 2 of those teams that you mentioned, Joao Pedro.
Yeah, but he plays for a better team, a much better attacking team.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
Oh, come on, like that's the one. You wouldn't say that Brighton are a good defensive team. It's the one thing that's keeping them up the table.
Cunha have been scoring. Wolves have been scoring though.
They have been scoring, but I keep watching their goals and I keep thinking they can't keep doing this.
He can't keep getting away with it.
Exactly, he can't keep getting away with it. It is ridiculous. I mean, like Brighton a couple of weeks ago, they were 2-1 up and just gave the ball to Wolves for a counter attack. They had a 5v1 attack. They gave the ball for a counter. Ridiculous. Cunha scoring from 0.01 XG in game week 11. Is this sustainable? I think that Wolves keep. I don't want to say they're getting lucky, but they're not generating many chances.
They're not even getting lucky. They won their first game.
Yeah, that's such a good point. They are not a very good football team.
Yeah. Fair enough. I can hear that. Well, Brighton are probably a better attack. I just think Wolves' attack probably is not as bad as it used to be. I remember the times when target Wolves for a defensive fixture was like the thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're a decent attacking outfit. I think it's more likely that Wolves score compared to a
Southampton,
Ipswich, West Ham, all them guys, Crystal Palace, Fulham.
No,
probably not.
I disagree.
It's probably a push, right?
I would still say Wolves are one of the worst attacks in the league. Their data
Arsenal,
isn't good. Yeah, Arsenal. Okay, fine. We're going there, are we?
Oh no, but fair enough. Rodgers on the bench. That's gonna hurt.
Of course, it's gonna hurt. But I mean, we're gonna look at your team now, and you're gonna be in the exactly same situation as me. So let's have a look at this draft from you. Do you want to go over it quickly so we can clip it up for TikTok?
Okay.
And then we'll do a longer discussion after.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is my wildcard draft for game week 12. I've got Raya in goal. In defense, I've gone Kirkers, Aït-Nouri, and Reece James. Interesting. In midfield, I've gone for Mo Salah, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, and Brian Mbeumo. And then finally up front, Alexander Isak, Raúl Jimenez, and Cunha. I don't know Cunha's first name. And then on the bench, I've gone Fabianski, Semenyo, Mikalenko, and Okoli. But I'll probably go for the 3.9.
Yeah, fair. Looks decent.
Yeah.
It does look decent.
A lot cheaper. Plenty of money in the bank in this.
Yeah, this is a really affordable wildcard, actually. I think people will like this one, generally speaking. Can I ask you a few questions about it, or have you got some more things to say?
You've messed around with my team rating here, because if you start Mikalenko over Reece James, my team rating goes way up.
Yeah, but I assumed you don't want to start Mikalenko over Reece James.
I won't.
Right, okay.
Based on the percentage rating that's on the screen, 95%. If you probably played Mikalenko, I'll definitely go to 96%, maybe even 97%.
Oh, by the way, I've put it doesn't. By the way,
does it not?
No, and for every subsequent game week on the Fantasy Hub app, I put Mykolenko as starting to try and boost your team rating as much as possible to give you a chance here.
Oh, fair enough. 95% though. Pretty happy with that. I think in terms of my team, Raya in goal, I'll still back in Arsenal defense. I still think Raya is good for points, particularly with the fixtures turning. In defense, Aït-Nouri, very interesting option. Defensively, they are shocking, absolutely shocking, but I'm just expecting attacking returns. Some of the positions he pops up in is crazy. Kirkes, very interesting one. Not really talked about much at the moment, but I think Bournemouth defense are quite interesting. He was a player that I picked last season. He did quite well for me. Quite happy with him. And I think on Wildcard, he's definitely one of the selection of 4.5s that I would have in there. I've got Mykolenko just because of Everton defense, and I've gone Reece James because he's cheap as chips. And I picked this Wildcard draft before the lineup came out for Chelsea-Arsenal.
Oh, yeah, he was benched against Arsenal, wasn't he?
Benched against Arsenal, which was strange because he's played 90 minutes in the previous two.
Well, that's probably your answer, to be fair. He's played 90 minutes twice in a row. There's no way he can do it again.
Yeah, probably. But no, I quite like James. I think the fixtures are good. If he's actually going to play, I mean, it sounds worse saying it now, but if he's going to play, he's a great option. His predicted minutes are very low, and that's why his predicted points are very low. But Chelsea are a decent defense, and you're getting one of their best fullbacks for 4.9 million. The only problem is, who's he going to displace between Gusto and Cucurella? Because Cucurella's kind of worked his way back into the team after another good performance versus Arsenal. And Gusto's just been brilliant. So maybe James doesn't actually make the cut because I assumed he would start against Arsenal. But that's probably the part where I'm not so strong on it anymore.
Yeah.
And then midfield, I think this kind of picks itself, in my opinion. Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Mbeumo, Semenyo. Brilliant fixtures, brilliant form, premium options. Gotta have the big three. Gotta have Semenyo, in my opinion, at the moment, just because the fixtures are so good and Bournemouth play so well. And Mbeumo is just like, he's like a quasi-premium. He's just such a brilliant option, so reliable. Brentford attack are so reliable. So definitely happy with that. And then up front, I've gone for Isak and Cunha, just like you. And I've gone for Jimenez over the Brighton boys. And again, this is one that I could probably be convinced of either way. But I do like Jimenez. And I like how Fulham attack is going at the moment. Like, they're sustaining attacks.
Yeah.
And like they're putting the twist on what they call, they're putting the screws to teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite interesting. And Jimenez just seems so involved. I've only had the one attacking return off him whilst he's been in my team, but I feel like more's coming. And the algo seems to like him with those predicted points.
Yeah, the algorithm does like him a lot, particularly for that price tag. Yeah, I watched the full Fulham game this weekend, which is not something I do every week for Fulham. No disrespect to Fulham, but no, I thought they were brilliant. One concern is I don't know if Reece Nelson is good for Raul Jimenez. A lot, goes through someone like him, and I don't know, because maybe he's a little bit more direct. I want to see more creative for Raul, as we kind of saw a few weeks ago, where everything was being tried to place towards Raul Jimenez's feet. But he's still a brilliant asset at that price tag. We think he's going to be the penalty taker. Yeah, awesome. On the bench, you've got Semenyo.
Yeah.
I have Rodgers on the bench.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend money on a bench player.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm probably not going to play Rodgers very often. He's kind of there more of as a backup. However, Semenyo and Raul Jimenez rotate incredibly well. Really well. So if you are on a wild card and you are going for a Fulham attacker, get a Bournemouth attacker in as well. Because this is why when Fulham play against Arsenal, Bournemouth play against Ipswich. When Fulham play against Liverpool in 16, Bournemouth play against West Ham. When Fulham play against Chelsea away in Gameweek 18, Bournemouth play Crystal Palace at home. The coverage is perfect.
Yeah. What would be interesting is pairing Evan Nilsson and Smith Rowe. You probably feel a lot more comfortable doing that as well.
That works as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm as keen on that one. It's slightly more expensive as a combo.
Is it?
Slightly, because Evan Nilsson is 5.9, Smith Rowe is
5.9.
5.6, 5.7. So it's slightly more expensive. And
wow, Evan Nilsson is pricey. How is Evan Nilsson more expensive than some of these other guys?
we started at 6 million, didn't he? And Raul Jimenez was not expected to play this season. He started at 5.5.
Yeah.
So you can kind of understand that a little bit. I think one thing I definitely do want to address in your team is Reece James and the reasons why I don't like him. I guess, first of all, we're going into this Christmas period. Presumably, you're going to own James until January. He's going to cause you some headaches there. And the other thing is that is James going to be as attacking as we've seen him in previous seasons? Have we got that idea of the Conte Reece James still in our heads?
I think at 4.9,
it is cheap.
It is very cheap. And you're still getting a defender from a top team who is at the very least going to get close.
But do you get much more from James than you do with Colwill? Colwill has secure minutes. And like if neither of them are attacking, then Colwill at 4.5.
I don't think James is not attack. Like, look how attacking Gusto can be.
Yeah, but that's because of the system they play where Cucurella is more of a tuck-in kind of guy and then Gusto has more freedom.
So if James and Gusto and Cucurella play, then you could get that.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
But is that a guarantee?
It's not a guarantee. It's a fun pick. And that's why I've got Mikalenko there as well, right? Who's guaranteed to play.
Yeah.
And you can bail on this at any point in the next 6 game weeks. You don't have to have him through to Christmas and stuff. But it's just frustrating that he didn't start the Arsenal game. If he played 90 in that, I think he's a brilliant option. And even outside of that, I think it was just a kind of a tactical decision, to be honest with you, that they went with Gusto and Cucurella instead of James and another option.
Possibly.
Cucurella hasn't actually got back into the team since he got out with the injury, I think it was. But he's made it back in now. And I think every time he's played this season, he's just looked good.
Yeah.
And so has Gusto, but Reece James hasn't looked bad, and he's the captain of the team. I wonder how much longer he'll actually stay out. I think he was just a one-off, as opposed to a longer term thing. And you know what? If he gets benched against the next game, you can just bench him and then get rid of a week or two afterwards.
Yeah, but you don't want to be making those transfers. If you've got the freedom of a wild card, you want to give yourself the security of not having to make transfers, right?
But I want that fun in my team.
You want that fun.
That feels there has to be something in my team. If I was actually wildcarding, one of my front 8, or probably most likely James would make him to my wildcard, but one of my front 8 would also be a bit of a punt. This is quite not punty. This is very template.
Okay, well that's a good transition into this next conversation, which is Mbeumo versus Bruno. Now, Bruno, instead of Mbeumo, is certainly a nice wildcard punt that not a lot of people will be doing. I think he kind of qualifies under that. But, I mean, let's talk about it. Mbeumo versus Bruno, presumably most people are going to have one or the other if they are on a wild card. Yeah. And even if you're not on a wild card, maybe some people thinking about selling Mbeumo for Bruno. Like the last couple of game weeks for him, he hasn't been scoring crazy. 3 points against Fulham in 10. No surprise, Fulham are class. They're going to be my new Forest, by the way. My new Forest is Fulham.
Forest are out now.
Yeah.
After they got smashed in.
Yeah. After they got smashed in by Newcastle, I'm a Fulham boy now. I like the Fulham defence. And then 5 points against Bournemouth. But more interestingly, over the last 2 game weeks, 0.09 XG, 0.26 XA in 2 game weeks. These are not great numbers. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that Wissa has been back for these exact 2 game weeks. So Mbeumo is no longer the primary target striker and has been moved to a slightly more peripheral role. So a few weeks ago, me and you would both agree, 100%, you have to have Mbeumo in your team. I still think he's a good pick, but I don't think he is as essential as he perhaps was.
I mean, I would agree with that. I would still prefer him over Bruno. I think my concerns with Bruno are, firstly, he's only started performing under Ruud. He wasn't really performing that well when he was under Ten Hag. Got a new manager coming in again. What system is he going to play? United fans seem to think it's going to be a back 3.
Yeah.
That puts Bruno into one of the front 3.
Yeah.
Or a deep midfielder.
No. He surely plays in a nice advanced role, surely.
But he won't play up 10. He won't play up front.
No.
So he's going to play on the wing.
Kind of inside forward.
Inside forward? What?
That's how I describe it, yeah. which is quite nice in a way.
It
and he
would
was
be
in
nice.
those areas this game week as
It
well.
would be nice if it looked like that. I'd just be I don't know. I'd want to see it.
Well, you kind of have seen it in Game Week 11.
No, we haven't seen it under Amarim, right?
Yeah, but he was playing a very similar role to what we would expect under Amarim, in my opinion.
What if he's playing on the wing?
Well, it's not going to be a wide midfielder because the width will be provided by the
No, as in
fullbacks.
like as a right winger.
Well, he's not going to be playing out there because the right wing back will be providing the width on the right side, allowing someone like Bruno to tuck inside, create, do what he does best, take those shots.
You're treating this like United are a team who attack in that manner. They don't attack in that manner.
Well,
United are a team that sort of just push out on you randomly.
yeah.
And I don't know. I'd be guessing, but I feel like there's a chance that he's not playing in a centrally position, and then suddenly it looks a little bit ugly.
For sure. And, you know, particularly if you've got Mbeumo at a cheap price, if you remove him and go for someone like Bruno, it might be very difficult to get Mbeumo back in. You lose a lot of team value.
I don't know. I just think Mbeumo is a known quantity. You know what you're gonna get. You know how Brentford attack. I don't think the Wizard thing is that much of a concern, to be honest. They tend to perform well as like a duo sometimes.
Yes.
It does to an extent sort of split off the returns, I guess. But Mbeumo's a known. We know what he's gonna do. United, I don't know.
Well, I think you're definitely right to be cautious about any Manchester United asset right now. They are an unknown quantity. And I think, you know, in many ways, Mbeumo versus Bruno, these are like complete opposites. You've got this what we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how this team's going to play. We don't know how good they're going to be versus Mbeumo, who has just been we know exactly what he's about. We've known for years what he's about. Bruno, he's been all over the place from an FPL perspective for the last few years. We have no idea what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Big returns on the weekend, but I don't know. Not for me. I couldn't go there comfortably. I'd feel too exposed.
And yet here you are with Reece James in the defence.
Yeah, but it's Reece James.
Like, I mean, come on. Like, look at your attack. That is pretty boring.
It is a bit boring. That's why I got Reece James.
Actually, I don't know if it's completely boring. I do like Isak.
Isak is very, very interesting. I feel like we haven't talked about him much.
No, we haven't spoken about him at all.
Because we kind of assumed that he'd be in wildcard drafts now again.
Yeah. I think we'll save Isak to our forward conversation because we've been on our drafts for a while. I think we go through some of the various bits and bobs, and then we'll circle back, and see if we've changed our minds on anything.
Okay.
Let's do that. And we're going to start off with the premiums and their fixtures. And something I noticed about both of our wildcard drafts is that we both had the same 3 premium players. Salah, Palmer, and Saka. No Haaland, no Son. And a lot of the drafts I've seen from people, exactly the same situation. If you're picking 3 right now, these are the 3. Salah, Palmer, Saka.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's... Haaland's just not doing it right now. It's just not happening for the guy. Even when he scores, he picks up a yellow card. That's crazy. Yeah, I think Haaland, if you're wildcarding now, I think these next 3, again, the same way that it was worth it 2 game weeks ago, it was worth it last week. I still stand on the same thing. It's probably worth it. You can expect him to score 1 or 2 against Spurs, but you're probably thinking that you can make up the points with a Salah captaincy, maybe even a Palmer captaincy.
Yeah.
And then move from there. But over the long term, particularly between now and game week 15, 16, those 3 just are so much better. Yeah,
you look at Haaland's fixtures now, and if City are already struggling, and it's not just Haaland that's struggling, it's the whole team that's struggling.
Yeah.
You look at the Spurs fixture and you think, yeah, okay, he could do some damage. But as you mentioned, Salah plays Southampton, Palmer plays Leicester. If, you know, Salah and Palmer had more difficult fixtures this week, then you might feel a bit more fearful of Haaland in comparison, but you don't.
Yeah.
Then we have City versus Liverpool. Liverpool are at home. Now, previously, we would have said this is a difficult game for Haaland and it's a difficult game for Salah. But now it's kind of like, you know, this is a difficult game for City. And for Liverpool, you fancy them in this game. You really fancy them in this game. So I think that's changed.
Yeah.
And after that for Haaland, Nottingham Forest, as we know, beautiful defence.
Second best defence in the league.
Yes, indeed. Crystal Palace away. I don't really love that as a fixture. It's okay.
Oh, that's a good fixture. That's
It's
a good
okay.
fixture.
It's fine. I don't love it though. Manchester United at home, new look Manchester United, no less. They would have had a couple of games to settle in by that point, so that'll be an interesting game. Then Aston Villa away, which they have conceded goals, but I still don't think they're like a terrible defense or anything like that. Then after that, in 18, Everton at home, and as we mentioned, Everton are keeping more clean sheets as well. So you don't actually get good fixtures for City until 19.
That's so biased. That's crazy.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of you're telling the story.
Am I creating an agenda?
You're creating a bit of an agenda. Salah faces a top 3 defense in Gameweek 13. He then faces a new look Newcastle. He then faces a difficult Everton. He then faces a great Fulham. Come on.
You're right.
You can paint it, you know what I mean?
Liverpool don't have amazing fixtures either, by the way, but they are just so good right now, and they look so good, and they're winning on all fronts that you trust them against anyone.
Yeah.
City are not that.
I think that's it for me. I think it's the team performance and the player form that I am sort of comfortable with.
So maybe fixtures are irrelevant between Haaland and Salah. Just look at who's doing better, and it is Salah.
Yeah, by some margin at the moment. Salah with that, new turkey hairline, he's absolutely killing it at the moment.
Yeah, he's rolled back the years in his hairstyle and in his footballing ability.
Yeah, he's on 100 points. He could be on for 300 again.
No, surely not. No,
he's on 100 points.
Could he do it?
He can do it.
Of course. Well, I mean, mathematically, he's on the right track.
Yeah, if he keeps up the current rate, he'll beat his previous record.
Oh my word! We said the same thing about Haaland, by the way, in like game week 4 or 5. So
40 points in 3 game weeks.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think Palmer and Saka are definitely sort of no-brainers at this stage, just because the fixtures are so good.
I agree Palmer is a no-brainer because the fixtures are just insane. But is Saka a no-brainer, particularly over the next 4? Or is Saka more of a no-brainer from like 16? Because Saka in the next 4 faces Forest, West Ham, Man United, Fulham. That's okay, but this is not a good run of fixtures.
You could lose a Saka for another player, not another premium. If you're comparing Saka to the other premiums, he's still a no-brainer because he's got better fixtures than most of them.
Yeah.
Except for probably Palmer. But if you're saying, okay, I can't decide between Mbeumo and Bruno, I want to get both.
Then maybe Saka is the sacrificial lamb.
Could definitely be a Saka artificial lamb.
Sacrificial lamb. Very good. Very shrewd. I get it.
And then pick him up against Everton. The good thing about selling Saka is you're probably not going to lose a massive point haul at any point. You'll just consistently lose about 6 or 7 points.
I think Saka's just a guy that you trust in your FPL team.
Yeah.
No headache. You go to sleep peacefully each night knowing that he's going to get you like 6 or 7 points a week. No dramas, no hassle, consistency, even against the tougher teams, which not everyone can do.
Yeah.
Palmer. And Son is the final player on this list. I mean, is it even worth talking about him? The fixtures are even worse than Haaland and Salah.
Yeah, the fixtures aren't great, and Spurs are just weird, man. I feel so bad for those Spurs captainers. I was not keen on it last week. But yeah, it's kind of brutal losing 2-1 to Ipswich.
It's mad. Like everyone, myself, I had Solanke and Johnson in that game. I thought, oh, yeah.
Damn.
Spurs versus Ipswich. Even when Ipswich do well, they still concede a couple of goals. So this is a no-brainer. Super attacking Spurs team. But I think, when you've got a player like Brennan Johnson in your team, it doesn't matter how many XG you generate, you might not match it for actual goals. I love Brennan Johnson, but he's not a good finisher. He really isn't. But there we go.
Well, there we go. I think if you're going to do Spurs, pick a...
Who? Don't pick any of them.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, I think Spurs assets are definitely out the window at this point.
Yeah.
Leave them in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some Spurs players in your team, right?
No.
You don't? Oh, because you wildcarded Game Week 10, didn't you?
I only had Solanke anyway.
Oh, yeah, fair. Yeah, I mean, I've got double Spurs right now. I'm so glad to be wildcarding them out. It's a good time to get rid of some Spurs players.
It's a good time to wildcard.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
And for some other reasons as well, but we'll get to that. Let's look at some forwards. So I've got the Fantasy Football Hub highest predicted points for forwards. All forwards at all price ranges. Number 1 is Haaland. No surprise there. I mean, for all of the positive things we can say about, Raul Jimenez, we're not expecting him to outscore Haaland. We just appreciate the value for money is better with Jimenez. So we'll leave Haaland. We've spoken about him a bit already. Isak next on this list. I'm very keen on this one.
Top striker.
Well, I mean, not quite, but almost. So I was looking through some of the numbers for the highest expected goal involvements for forwards over the past 6 game weeks per 90, per start, whatever you want to say. Haaland is number 1. We know how many chances he's been getting. Isak is number 2 for both expected and for actual output as well. He's been really, really good. And he's been that FPL asset that we were speaking about prior to game week 1, where I made some videos about like expert drafts and who is like the most owned player among the top FPL managers, and Isak was number 1.
He was like 100%, wasn't he?
He was like 99.5% owned among top managers. Like he was unanimously agreed to be a phenomenal FPL asset. What changed? He wasn't fully fit. He was playing through an injury. Newcastle were in a bit of bad form. They had a lot of injuries still have a few, in fairness. Now Isak is back. He's fully fit, in form, firing. Newcastle are in better form. This is the Isak we wanted in game week 1. This is the Isak that 99.5% of the top managers unanimously agreed has to be in your FPL team. That is where we're at with him.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I watched him in that Forest game, and like before, I think before his return, I was like, this Isak is back.
Yeah.
Like he's playing so well. And when he's like that, he's one of the best. He arguably one of the top 3 best strikers in the league, in my opinion. So yeah,
maybe top 2. I mean, who's better than him outside of Haaland? And even there's some debate about that now.
Chris Wood.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm joking. But I mean, Ollie Watkins, I think has a bit to say there.
I mean, disagree, but I get it.
Who else is there? I mean, Diogo Jota's pretty good, but maybe he's not Isak good. You know what? You're probably right there. He's probably the second best striker in the league at the moment.
Do you want to know some fixtures for him?
Go on then.
West Ham at home next, then Crystal Palace away, then Liverpool at home in 14. But then after that, Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich, Aston Villa at home, Man United away. So in the next, 8 game weeks, we've got West Ham, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. That is 5 phenomenal fixtures.
I mean, look, he's just scored against Chelsea, Arsenal, and Forest as well. So like,
that's a good point.
So the guy, good fixtures, bad fixtures, he's great.
Good point.
Right? I mean, putting 11 points past Nottingham Forest, the best defense in the league.
I know, it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And
Should have had more.
I feel like the goalkeeper cells made it a little bit easier than perhaps it should have been. But
yeah.
But
yeah, no. Look, I think Isak is a phenomenal pick. On Wildcard, definitely would be getting him. Transfer.
Yeah, non-wildcarders.
So I want to buy Isak.
If you have like a Solanke.
A Solanke is just such an easy sell this week.
Solanke to Isak, if you've got the money.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer, right?
I can do a swap of Chris Wood to Isak.
Have you got the money in the bank?
Provided I sell Trent. Who, again, Trent, injured.
Let's talk about Trent in a minute in more detail, but yeah.
Could miss Southampton.
Yeah.
Then plays City and West Ham. So I could lose Trent and pick up, I don't know, maybe a Reece James.
Come on now.
No, I've got Rico Lewis. I've got enough of that craziness on my team.
Yeah, fair point.
But no, I'm 0.9 short of doing the Wood to Isak transfer. And I've got 2 free transfers, so I'm very likely to do it.
Well, have you got an Arsenal defender? Arsenal.
I've got Ryan.
Oh, okay. So maybe you don't want to double up on Arsenal.
Yeah.
Konate? You don't like Konate as a pick, do you?
I don't get the pick.
We are going to talk about defences. But the other players, top of the predicted points, it goes Haaland, Isak, then Watkins, who has been a little bit off it. I don't think the fixtures are as good for Aston Villa. I mean, maybe we can reassess that. in a couple of weeks. They do have Crystal Palace this week, then Chelsea away. Then they do have Brentford and then Southampton. But then after that, it's like Forest, Man City, Newcastle away, Brighton. It's like nothing crazy. And then Wood after that. Well, I think we have to agree, Nottingham Forest, for all of the credit that we give them, they have horrible fixtures coming up. They've had pretty much all of their best fixtures already.
Yeah. In the next three, they face City and Arsenal, don't they?
It's not, it's not really what you want. It's Arsenal away, then Ipswich at home, then City away, then Man United away, then Aston Villa at home, then Brentford away, Spurs home, Everton away. Like, these are, in terms of a run for the next 8 game weeks, they probably have the worst fixtures of any team in the Premier League. It's not a good time to have Forest players. And that's why I've got no Forest players in my current wildcard draft. Not really feeling it. Cunha's there as well. We spoke about him already. Going to the next page, we see Solanke in 6th. But I don't think we go there. Raul Jimenez, Joao Pedro, and Wissa, the cheap guys. And then in 10th place for predicted points for forwards, Nicholas Jackson.
I like him.
Yeah, lower than I thought he would be.
I like him. What I'm very surprised by is the lack of a certain Kai Havertz in this.
Are you surprised by that? He has been really off it. But, I mean...
I think the fixtures haven't been brilliant.
That's true. But then the same thing could be said about Jackson.
But, I mean, Jackson's good as well. I'm not saying Jackson shouldn't be in this 10.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting not to see Kai Havertz. But Jackson, definitely a good option. I think people are kind of concerned about having Palmer and Jackson. For me, I think as a double up, it's quite nice.
I don't have a problem with it. I probably would go for Jackson if it wasn't for the emergence of Isak.
Yeah. I think that's the problem. When you're starting to look at your premium mid-priced forwards,
yeah,
you're looking at Solanke's, Jackson's, Havertz's, and Isak. Isak
he just clears it, doesn't he?
So much better, isn't he? Wissa, who we briefly went past, interesting pick.
Not as convinced on him as other people are.
How come?
Igor Thiago. Is that his name?
I know Igor. I don't know his last name.
Igor Thiago? I'm pretty sure that's his name. The Brentford Brazilian guy, the striker that Brentford signed in the summer to replace Tony. He was meant to be the new star striker for Brentford. He got injured, unfortunately. He was expected to be ruled out for the season, but he's back in full training. And this week he's playing a behind closed doors friendly. So I think there's a good chance that he comes back very soon and starts putting Wissa into a little bit of rotation risk. Maybe not that much because Wissa has been brilliant and does deserve to play, but that could just mean Wissa moves out to the left wing. And he's not going to have the same influence as previously. Not going to happen every week. It's probably not going to happen for a couple of weeks either.
Yeah.
But with Brentford's fixtures getting worse in a couple of weeks, Wissa could be a shorter term pick than maybe some of the other players on this list.
Yeah. Fair enough. I still think he's one to consider, and a lot of people don't seem to talk about him as an option as much. So I just wanted to flag it.
Yeah. A little shout out for Wissa, definitely. And I think he will do very well over the next 2. But the rotation risk or the positional risk starts at the same time as the fixtures get worse. And I think that is a little concerning for me. Like, again, if you're on a wild card, I think I'd want to create a situation where I minimize the amount of problems I might have in the near future.
Is he the second best player in Brentford?
Is Wissa the second? Yeah. Probably.
Unlikely he gets dropped?
I don't think he'll get dropped, no, but I think he will move out to the left wing.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think he's going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. But anyway, those are your forwards. Now let's go to the opposite end of the football pitch, hopefully, if the button works. There it does. Let's run through this briefly because we spoke about this last game week on the pod. And this is the top 10 defences. We'll look at the bottom 10 after. It's still Liverpool out on top for the best defence in the league for non-penalty expected goals against, which I think is the best metric for judging who we expect to keep clean sheets going forward. I know Liverpool don't have the best fixtures, but they have been the standout defense this season, both in underlying data and, some people, even if you don't like underlying data, they've kept 6 clean sheets. They're the only team who's done it in real terms as well, really. Other than maybe Man United and Forest are the only other 2 teams who have kept any significant amount of clean sheets.
Least goals conceded as well.
Yeah, for sure. 6 goals conceded in 11 games. That's like really good. Like, really good. Who do you go for? The Robertson-Tsimikas situation is just too messy. Would not ever want to touch that. Van Dijk, I quite like. Quite like for the aerial threat, occasional goal to give you a nice surprise. Trent is likely to be out against Southampton. Could be back in game week 13. I think on a wild card you probably leave it. If you're not on a wild card though, you could keep him. Unless selling him allows you to make an upgrade elsewhere, like in your situation.
Well, the money that you can raise, it almost always will allow you to make an upgrade, right?
Well, it will allow a necessary one, I mean.
Like, if you need to pick up a Palmer, a Saka, a Salah, or something like that, it makes it so much more comfortable. The big problem for me is he's going to miss Southampton. I just think he's going to miss Southampton.
Which is the best fixture of the lot coming up for Liverpool.
And if he misses that, it's just not worth having him, in my opinion, because they're probably going to concede to City. They're probably going to concede to Spurs.
That's fair. But it leaves us with Konate, who's the cheapest guy.
But you get 0 attacking threat.
I agree.
You get tricky fixtures.
There's some decent fixtures in there. But you get but like, we say this. Okay, you're not going to go for Konate. Who do you go for then?
Okay, it's not Spurs they play Newcastle. Liverpool play Spurs. I'm going to try that again. Liverpool play Southampton, City, Newcastle, Everton, Fulham, and then Spurs. Presuming they probably concede to at least 4 of those, is it worth it?
Yeah. Because, like, who else are you going to go for? I think this is what it boils down to. There is no good defence. We can say, I think I'll go for Forest. They've got even worse fixtures, so much worse fixtures.
Like Lewis Hall.
What? So even I would back Liverpool to keep a clean sheet in a tough fixture more than I would back Newcastle to keep a clean sheet in an easy fixture.
That's crazy.
Is it?
That's a bit much. What, you'd back Newcastle to keep a clean? You'd not back Newcastle to keep a clean sheet against like a Ipswich or a Fulham over. Okay, maybe not Fulham, but an Ipswich or a Southampton over Liverpool against City or a Newcastle.
Well, I mean, in the next 2, Newcastle play West Ham and Palace, and Liverpool play Southampton and City.
You could arguably see 2 Newcastle clean sheets. I don't know.
Okay.
It just doesn't. Konate just feels very suboptimal.
It's boring.
You're just,
that's what it is.
You're just going for the possibility of a clean sheet, and the possibility of a clean sheet probably isn't even that high because of the fixtures.
But who is it high for?
It's not high, but there's no get a bit of attacking threat in your team.
Okay, yeah, I get that. I 100% get that.
Get a bit of Kirkers, something like that, you know?
You know who else I'd looked at instead of Konate? De Ligt and Man United. If Man United are suddenly good, which it's not a guarantee, but if they are suddenly good, I think he's got a decent amount of set piece threat. And better fixtures.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Similar price, 5 million for De Ligt.
Yeah. Imagine I convince you to sell Konate and then he scores.
Don't. Well, he's already got 2 goal contributions this season, which, by the way, I'm not expecting to happen again. Even if I do pick him, it's not for his attacking threat. Yeah. It's been an anomaly that he's got attacking returns. He's not that guy. He's just not that guy. But let's move on from Liverpool. I think Konate and Van Dijk, I do like.
Yeah.
In general. Forest, it's very difficult to touch them. Sells you'd maybe go for but that's just because he's a goalkeeper, and you expect a goalkeeper to probably be in your team for the next 20 game weeks. So you don't just look at the next 5-10 fixtures. You look a little bit longer term. So there is some arguments for sells, but in the short term, you might find other goalkeepers could outscore him. Arsenal, I think a single Arsenal, they're third, by the way, on this list of best defences. I think you could go for Arsenal. One Arsenal defender.
I think 1.
Raya or Gabriel.
Yeah.
Probably. I think Raya is obviously cheaper. but you're probably not going to get too many saves from him. Probably not going to get bonus. Gabriel, you'll get the occasional goal, which will put a big old smile on your face for those game weeks where he does score. But I think Arsenal will keep more clean sheets moving forward. I don't think they're going to keep conceding every game. Like, surely not.
Yeah. No, I do back Arsenal defense. I mean, it's probably a bit differential to even go for 2 because nobody's going to be on that at the moment. But yeah, I think 1 Arsenal would be nice on a wild card. The fixtures are very good for quite a long time. So
next up in 4th place, probably a surprise, it's Chelsea.
Reece James.
Or Sanchez or Colwill.
Yes.
If we're being a bit more sensible. And then after that, Aston Villa. They again have they have okay fixtures, to be fair, but it's nothing crazy. Digne. I mean, it's more interesting than a Consa, which is really, really boring.
If Aston Villa defense has 100 haters, I have multiplied 200 people.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, but the data is good. So I don't know. If we're trying to make predictions about the future, then you would expect that Aston Villa do improve. Digne, a little bit of rotation risk, though. Consa is boring. Martinez is too expensive. So it's difficult to pick a guy out. Digne would probably be my favourite of the lot, but he's not foolproof. Then let's whiz through the next one. Man City, Luis Gvardiol, thing of the past, get rid. Fulham are in there. You can get Joachim Anderson for 4.3 million. Same price as Mikalenko.
Wow. Wow. Him or Robinson, very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Like them both. For Spurs, probably don't go there right now. Bournemouth are 9th, Newcastle in 10th. So we spoke about Kirkes, we spoke about Hall. Yeah, decent value for money picks. Really decent value for money picks. Going to the bottom end of the table, this is where things get interesting. So Everton in 11th, but they find themselves going up and up the table each week.
Yeah, they've climbed. They're almost top half now, aren't they?
Yeah, they were bottom 3 5-6 game weeks ago.
Branthwaite.
It's the Branthwaite effect. He hasn't been playing every game, but it is the Branthwaite effect.
Even from the sidelines, spiritually, he does something.
Okay, I see. Brighton here in 12th. Now, they have got very good fixtures coming up, but I don't think they've convinced anyone defensively. However, they have spent periods of the season without Lewis Dunk and without Van Hecker, who are very important to their defence. From Brighton, we have the goalkeeper Verbruggen, 4.5. We have Lewis Dunk, who is 4.4 million right now, but he's due a price drop to 4.3 as well. There is genuinely some really nice 4.3 options maybe coming up.
You could pick up 3 4.3s and be okay with your team, to be honest.
Genuinely. Crystal Palace up next. Still not convinced by them. Then Manchester United, difficult to place right now because of the big change coming up. Then West Ham, Wolves, Brentford. These are the worst of the not newly promoted teams, really. And then Leicester, Southampton, Ipswich. I think in general, unless a player has significant attacking threat, like someone like Ait-Nouri, West Ham, Wolves, Brentford, Leicester, Southampton, Ipswich, you just avoid their defence entirely.
Yeah.
You can maybe throw Davis in there from Ipswich because, again, for the attacking threat, but we ain't touching them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's this is my thing about attacking threat versus expected clean sheet, right? I would prefer to have an Ait-Nouri or a Leif Davis, over a Konate here, or a Forest centre back at the moment, just because the fixtures are tricky. So you probably got a 1 in 3, 1 in 2 chance of getting a clean sheet. You probably got a 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance of an attacking return with some of those fullbacks that I've talked about. So I'd probably just chase the upside a little bit.
Do you want to know some of the? I actually have this on my laptop right now. Do you want to know some of the highest expected goal involvements?
Go on then.
For defenders. Let's go 6 game weeks. Get a recent idea. So the top players for expected goal involvements over the last 6 game weeks for defenders are Davis, Emerson, Collins, and Munoz, all on 0.3. So you expect a goal contribution from each of them. 0.3. So every 3 games, you maybe get something from them.
1 in 3, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
That's what I'm sort of expecting from a clean sheet perspective over the next 6 for Liverpool.
After that, we have the 0.2 lot. So 1 in 5 for these guys. Digne, Alexander-Arnold, Hall, who we mentioned. Robertson, Gehi, Van de Ven, Pinnock, Gusto, Howard Bellis, Pedro Porro, Udogie, Dallo, Senesi, Aitnori, Tarkovsky, Alex Moreno. That's it. No Gavardio mentioned so far, by the way.
Gavardio just slaps it from outside the box, man. They're like, the guy's just got a shot on him.
Also, no Robinson either.
Interesting.
And no Gabriel. And more importantly, no Konate.
Of course.
But also no Kirkes mentioned so far. These players are all much lower down the list. But there are definitely some players that have attacking threat. I think Hall is one of my favourites right now.
Yeah, I sold him on Wildcard.
Did you really? Of course you did. Yeah, because it was not looking good for Hall. Like for a while we were saying, what is Blood doing in your team still? And now we're like speaking up, oh, Lewis Hall, yeah, he could be nice.
My entire Wildcard team is just going to become that.
Yeah. The fact that he's 4.3 million does help, in fairness.
Well, I bought him at 4.5.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to buy him for 4.3. So, no, I don't know if I'll go for him. Because like I said, Lewis Dunk and Anderson as well for 4.3. If we can get those for those prices, that's pretty nice as well. I guess we'll see. All right. Well, let's circle back. Let's do my wild card first of all. From everything we've discussed right now, I may have convinced myself that Verbruggen is the player to go for ahead of Sanchez, but I do want that Chelsea defensive coverage, knowing their top 4 defenses so far. They haven't convinced us when you watch the football games, but the data backs Chelsea, and they have the fixtures. So, what are we saying? One Chelsea defender is probably a nice idea on a wild card?
I think so. I'm surprised by how high up their defensive data is.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too.
But Lavia has just been injured, hasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, but they've got Caicedo, they've got Enzo. I didn't mention how good these players were. I said that they have those players.
Caicedo's good, but Caicedo and Lavia together, I think, is what's required.
Okay.
Caicedo and Enzo, I'd be not very happy with.
It's a good point. I think if I wanted to save 0.2 million, Sanchez would possibly be the guy downgraded to someone like Verbruggen, maybe. I can't convince myself on sells because of the fixtures. I want to get points now. I'm impatient. Konate, I could be tempted away from. But I just see those Liverpool numbers and I think, surely this team is one of the few reliable teams for clean sheets. Or do we just give up and say, there is no clean sheets? Forget about it.
They've had some of the easiest fixtures so far in the league.
It is true. Okay. Maybe that's another area I could potentially save some money. I'm sticking with Bruno over Mbeumo.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I think I'm there right now. Let's see what I'm saying by the time, like particularly there's going to be some FOMO from me when I see everyone has Mbeumo but me. Do I want that? I don't know. And the only other player I can see myself changing is maybe Cunha in my draft. And I don't really know what forwards I prefer.
Yeah.
I'm not that convinced by Cunha, but he gives you so much security. And if you're going to go Bruno over Mbeumo, a little bit of security goes a long way.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't think I'll change my mind on anything else. I think it's the defensive areas mostly that I'm more open to switches.
I hear you.
By the way, Fabianski, interestingly, if he holds his place, he can rotate a little bit with Sanchez.
Not a fan of rotation.
Neither am I, generally speaking, but Chelsea play Spurs away in 15. And West Ham play, let me find it, Wolves at home in that week. Maybe?
Brilliant attack, Wolves.
Well, let's see.
I think I'd consider it, although I did bench both Mikolenko and Fabianski to their 0-0.
Rough.
So that wasn't brilliant, but I'm still happy with that decision. I support that decision. Rotating goalkeepers is bad news.
Yeah, no, true. Okay, fine. I won't do that. But there's a 3.9 million goalkeeper now. Let me find his name.
Well, you might as well have Fabianski available.
Well,
just in case Sanchez is too many yellow cards or just something stupid happens, like out for a game week and you can just play Fabianski.
Yeah, but Killian Cahill.
For 0.1 million, you might as well have a player that plays. Plus, maybe one day you decide to bench boost.
Probably not pre-World Cup. I mean, maybe. But is Fabianski going to hold his place that long? He's like 48 years old.
Whilst the manager's in.
Fine. But Killian Cahill was the 3.9 million goalkeeper. He plays for Brighton, so one to consider if you wanted to. Let's look at your team. Have you been convinced or your mind swayed on anything during this chat?
I don't know. Bruno's interesting a little bit. You probably piqued my interest a little bit. But Everton and Leicester coming up next. Villa after that. I just prefer Mbeumo.
Okay.
Reece James.
Can I interest you in a Colwell?
Probably. Probably. I'm in a position where I'm going to sell Trent this week, and I can afford basically anyone. And I could either go for a Gabriel or a Kirkers, or God forbid Lewis Hall comes back into my team. Or I could go for a Reece James.
I just don't see the benefit. I'm not seeing it at all.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we had this conversation as FPL managers? Don't pick Reece James. He is just going to hurt you. He had one nice spell like 4 years ago, and we're still holding on to that.
I captained Reece James for a brace.
Did you?
It was one of the best weeks I had in my life.
And it was in 1994. And that was the best FPL score I ever got.
I think it was like 2 seasons ago. But I don't have that sort of... People have this sort of strong hatred towards James because he's a bit of a troll. I've never really got burnt by him that badly. So maybe I'm not looking at it with that bias. Or maybe I am looking at it with my own bias. But I can't say I'm not tempted. I just wish he started against Arsenal. And he would be in my team.
You've got rose-tinted glasses to an idea of Reece James that hasn't existed in a very long time.
So if you were to sell Trent now, who would you get? Any defender.
Okay.
Who's the best defender outside of Trent?
Gabriel? Maybe. I'd maybe go there. But if you already have Raya in goal, then I think that does make things a bit more difficult.
So then who would you get?
After that, Nori. But I guess you already have him. After that, this is where the fun starts, where you can just pick anyone. Do you just go all the way down to a Lewis Hall at that point? Maybe. And then
one of the Myra of 4.3s.
Yeah. I mean, go for a Lewis Hall, and that allows you the money to upgrade Mbeumo to Fernandes when Fernandes proves you wrong in Gameweek 12. And then Gameweek 13, you're glad you have the money to make that upgrade.
So consideration.
It's an option for sure.
Consideration. Okay. I guess you've changed my mind on Reece James. And then Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Mbeumo happy with. We didn't really talk about Semenyo versus Rodgers, but it's a bench option. I just think Semenyo's fixtures are really good.
I think if you have Raul Jimenez, like having Semenyo is important. If you didn't have Raul there, if you had like Wissa there or Joao Pedro there, I would say, when are you ever going to play Semenyo? But actually, with Raul, you are going to play Semenyo sometimes.
Yeah. So I think otherwise, pretty set on the team.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's round off with a couple of questions that came in via Twitter, if I can find them on my laptop. FPL Plug says, do we really want Bruno?
Nah.
Yes, we do.
Nah.
I think we do. FPL M7 MDS says, best midfielder?
Mo Salah?
Salah? Palmer?
Saka? No, not Saka.
I think there's a good chance that Palmer outscores Salah over the next 5-10 game weeks.
Mo Salah?
I genuinely think Palmer could outscore Salah because he's such a flat track bully, which brings us to our next question from Pigs Might Fly, who says, is Palmer a flat track bully? I'll take this one.
You've been vindicated.
I'll take this one. Yeah. A few weeks ago, 4 game weeks ago, I said Palmer is going to struggle in these next big 4 fixtures against against Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, Arsenal. He just can't do it in these, really tough games against the toughest defenses. He can't score goals. He got 1 goal against Newcastle, nothing in any of the other fixtures. I've been vindicated. I was right. Chelsea fans will cry. And they'll say, what about the Euros final? Yeah, I mean, in individual instances, any player can do anything. I'm sure Harry Maguire has scored goals in big games before. That doesn't mean he's a big game player who will score against anyone. Like, come on, let's be real.
I think we've gone too far.
I'm just putting it out there. But
you've gloated. There we go.
But on the other hand, I think Palmer is a world-class flat track bully, and he will put teams to the sword. So I'm not negative on Palmer. I just understand that he's a young player. He's only just begun his career realistically. We can't put the same expectations on him compared to Haaland, Salah, Saka. He's not the same guy. He will come good, and one day Palmer will be a big game player. But right now, when he's against Leicester, that is when you want him in your FPL team.
Would you consider captaining him over Mo?
What if I had to have one or the other?
Just captain for this week.
I would consider it, yeah. I genuinely would consider it.
Would you seriously consider it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll talk about it next week.
And if you don't have Salah in your team, I mean, first of all, like, what are you doing at this point? But, like, it's... Like, Palmer, I think, is a very acceptable alternative. A very acceptable alternative.
Yeah.
I like it.
Interessante. Yeah, I think I would still say Salah's the best midfielder in the game right now, but Palmer definitely very close to him.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you can take this next question. This is from Shaf, who says, are the slightly more expensive strikers, Jackson, Havertz, etc., worth it over the cheaper ones, Raul, Cunha, etc.?
I think with Isak, yes, at the moment. Jackson, Solanke, Havertz, probably not.
Not Jackson at all?
If you're gonna pick one of them, you'll pick Isak.
Yeah.
And then I think having Jackson on top probably stops being worth it.
Okay, what if you can't afford Isak?
Then I would want one of them. So yeah, I would go for Jackson.
4 yellow cards, by the way,
Yeah.
and he will get a fifth.
Yeah.
Before, the timer runs out in game 19, 20.
Yeah. I do like a Jackson over the cheaper options, but not in combination with another expensive forward, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so I would say yes.
Yeah, I agree. And it also gives you a bit of flexibility, I think, as well.
Having that option available to shift to another
if Isak goes
quasi
wrong,
premium.
Yeah. But, even if, you could even potentially move to Haaland at some point later down the line more easily with an Isak compared to if you've got, Joao Pedro, Strand Larsen, and Raul Jimenez. You have to do about 8 transfers to raise the funds to upgrade them to Haaland. It's craziness. Triple the price. Ishkar says, is Saka, Salah, Palmer, Bruno, and Mbeumo as a midfield essential?
Saka, Palmer, Salah, Mbeumo,
and Bruno. So basically,
who's he missing? Oh, he's missing Rodgers.
Well, he's missing the Rodgers Semenyo kind of thing.
It is a great midfield, but you'd have 2 forwards playing at any time.
Yeah.
And
but is that such a bad thing?
It's not awful, is it?
If you had a Cunha Isak strike force, or a Cunha Wissa, or Cunha Joao Pedro, something like that, could work.
I mean, you could even have a Jimenez just sat on your bench.
Yep.
Like what's the same as Rodgers sat on your bench, really, isn't it?
Price rise, there's not too much difference between a Semenyo and a Jimenez. So yeah, I get it.
It's all right. I actually don't hate that. For some reason, it don't feel right to me though.
Yeah, but I think that's because we've got drilled into our heads that this Rodgers Semenyo, Smith Rowe kind of role is just a lock in our FPL team.
Yeah, because really, there's no difference between having one of those and having a Joao Pedro or a Jimenez.
You know what? This question's actually messed with my head a lot.
Yeah,
I might do that as long as I can keep Isak in my team.
You're not fussed about Cunha. That's the thing.
Exactly. I'll drop Cunha.
Yeah,
I'd have to raise some funds elsewhere.
No, because you've got a Joao Pedro in your team anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't actually need to raise the funds. You'd be basically benching one of Cunha or Joao Pedro.
Well, no, because I'd be removing Cunha, and Cunha is 1.5.
Yeah, but
cheaper than an Mbeumo.
I got you, and you'd start Joao Pedro basically every week.
Yeah. And then maybe I just throw a Jimenez on my bench or something, or I don't even know. Yeah, I need to think about this one.
That's a very, very interesting question.
That is the best question we've ever had on this podcast.
Well done. What's the person's name?
Ishkar Maharaj.
Ishkar Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fair play, mate.
Changed the world.
You may have changed my wildcard draft. We'll do a couple more. Here's one from Well, this is actually that's quite kind of tough one. Illmatic92 says, how does team value work?
Illmatic. The classic album.
Oh, is it?
By Nas.
Sorry. How does team value work with changing prices once wildcard is hit?
How does team value work with changing prices once wildcard is hit?
Basically, how do you make money on a wildcard?
So you would need to pick up a player who okay, let's talk 2 ways of doing it. Version 1 is you buy a player, he goes up in price once, goes up in price again, and you sell him for a 0.1 profit.
Yeah, so a player gets 2 price, you bring him into your team, he has 2 price rises, and then you sell him, and you benefit from one of those 2 price rises.
Correct. Another option is wait until a player drops, and then buy him, like Lewis Dunk.
Yep. Or Gabriel, who also dropped.
Is Gabriel about to drop?
He's already dropped.
Oh, nice. I might buy him.
Yeah.
Or finally, just buy a player that you want who's going up in price.
Yeah, and make sure you get there early.
Yeah. Oh, and one final reminder for people, particularly someone like you who's considering keeping a Rodgers. Don't sell someone you've got a lot of value in unless you are 100% sure close to deadline.
And Mbeumo as well.
And Mbeumo, Rodgers, these kind of guys who you might lose, but you might not lose.
Yep. Keep them in your team all the way till deadline and only transfer them out when you are 100% sure.
Correcto.
Yeah. No, that's a solid piece of advice. There's some good tips there. Well, you know what? You've grabbed that question by the horns and you have thrown it about like it's no one's business. Okay, one more question. We'll take this from John, who says, you can only afford one on wildcard, Gvardiol or an Arsenal defender. So Gvardiol versus Gabriel, I guess, essentially.
Gabriel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I've owned Gvardiol for the whole season so far, and yes, he's been scoring goals, but I've rode my luck. Take, when you're at the casino and things are going your way, you don't wait until they start going against you again. If you just won five games in a row on the roulette, are you taking a 6th? Are you taking a 7th? Are you taking an 8th? Walk away from the table, my friends.
Maybe he's not lucky.
Gvardiol? Yeah, no, he's been
No. The question did make me think, though. And I think it's just more likely at this point in time that Gabriel keeps a clean sheet compared to Gvardiol scoring.
Yeah. And that's the end of it from an FPL discussion. That's it. Yeah. Walk away from the roulette table, John. Yeah.
And there's probably there's probably similar likelihood of Gvardiol scoring again and Gabriel scoring again.
Exactly. That's another point. Yeah. Gabriel.
Yeah.
Light work. Right. Let's wrap things up then. Guys, hopefully you have enjoyed this wildcard special. Please do make sure you do drop a like, 5-star rating, etc., and give some support to this bonus episode because who knows if this will do well because it's not the main episode of the week. Bit of an experimental one for us. But we will be back next week for the actual proper Gameweek 12 show, which is going to be for everyone, not just wildcarders. We're going to be more for everyone. It's going to be more for people like you, Sim.
Thank you very much.
You don't have a wildcard.
No, I've used mine.
You poor soul. Yeah. I mean, I say that. I've had some red arrows since not using my wildcard. So
I just wish I paid my wildcard 1 week earlier.
Yeah.
I'd probably be in the top 500K right now.
That would be pretty nice. But guys, we appreciate you guys tuning in once again. Like I say, do the nice things. The likes. Do them, please. We'll appreciate that. Check out Fantasy Football Hub. And final word from Sim.
Good night.
All right. It's pretty boring. Whatever. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.